All right, what I'd like to do is go over with you the handout that I gave you, just so you see it. This handout literally is number 1 that's on the programming exercises. That's this. Write a program named subscript exception test in which you declare an array of 20 doubles and store the values in an array. What I did was I just had 20 random numbers. All right. Write a try block in which you place a loop that prompts the user for a subscript value and displays the value stored in the corresponding array location. Create a catch that does an index out of range exception that displays an appropriate error message. So that's the one I did. Tomorrow, at a minimum, and I'll have this written out for you so you don't have to write it down now, but at a minimum tomorrow, we're going to do number 2. And then depending on how much time, we're either going to do number 3 or we're going to do number 4. I don't know. You are going to do number 5 yourselves. All right? Anything that we do tomorrow, you're going to have to do also. In other words, I'm not going to give you hard copies of anything tomorrow. All right? Plus, I'm going to ask that you do the debug exercises at the end. All right? Now, some of you have been having problems with the debug exercises. You may have emailed me or whatever, but when you do those, normally they're very superficial changes that you should have to make in order to get them to work. All right? So, again, let's take a look then at number 1. That's subscript exception test. All right? So, again, this is the handout that you have. Knock this down a little bit. I just screwed it up, but that's okay. All right. So I grabbed the comments, put them out here. No biggie one way or the other. But, so here it is. So what do I have? I've got 3 different constants. Minimum, which is the smallest number I'm planning on generating. Maximum, which is the largest. And then my stop value. We didn't have to use any of those. I could have just put those numbers in there or whatever. By now, hopefully you're comfortable enough with this act that we have right here, this thing of seeding the rand. So basically it's getting the random number generator ready. This is creating a brand new array that's going to hold 20 doubles. That should make sense to all of you by now, everybody in here. All right? This will be the subscript. So that will be the number that the user asks for, ideally between 0 and 19. And this will be the string representation of that number. All right? So here we come in and we create an array of 20 random doubles. And I knew it was something with rand.nextDouble, but I couldn't remember it. So if you look right here, the reason that I've got this where it says glean from, that means I went out online and stole it. All right? But that's the URL. So if you need any more information from it, I took it right from there. So what are we doing here in English? Let me put this on 2 lines just so you can see all of it. This says generate a random number between 1.0 and 100.0. That's exactly what that says. Once you generate that random number, throw it into the associated array location. That makes sense to everybody? All right. So that all that's doing is basically, you could say right here, create/fill an array, because that's what it's doing. Then I verify/print out. So I print out the numbers that I just put in there. So this is generating the random numbers, and this is printing them out when we're all done. Then I've got a read line just so you can see all those. Then I put this into an infinite loop. All right, and what am I asking here? Well, I'm asking the user to enter a number between 0 and that'll be 19 right there. And actually, right here, everybody see this where I've got that? That's the 19 because the length of the array is 20. But in here, if I remove this, everybody see what's in blue? If I remove that, remember before when I put in a 0, it said out of range? because you should put in 1 to 20. If you don't want to do that, just remove this, the -1. Just have random numbers dot length. So in other words, if I remove this -1 here, all right, now when I run the program, there's the random numbers. It asks me to put one in. Now if I put in 0, it's going to give me, it should give me 22.77. No, it still doesn't. Maybe I didn't save. But you get the idea. All right, it's no big thing one way or the other, to be honest with you. So again, enter a number between 0 and 19. All right, but remember, anything that we read in, so this line right here, this, everything you see in blue, all right, everything you see there in blue is replacing what we used to do, which was to just say subscript equals convert dot 2int32 read line. So we are replacing this one line that's now commented. Oh, I guess that was good. All right, so we're replacing that line with those two lines. But we're idiot-proofing the program. All right? So if we put a non-numeric value in there, it should do this. It should just ask you to do it again. And since it's in a loop, all right, it's going to end up running the program again. This is all in a try statement, which means this catch, the only catch I'm putting in there, and if you don't know, IOOREX stands for index out of range expression. Again, I could have called this just E, but if I would have made that E, then I would have had to have made that E. Doesn't matter what you call it. So if we put in a number that's less than 1, or that's greater than, less than 0 or greater than 19, this is the code that's going to fire. There's no finally block in here. I could have, if you wanted to really see it, I could have put a finally in here. Oops. That says, for example, it'd be a stupid thing to do, but I just do it anyway. I'll just say, right line, this should fire no matter what. All right? And you'll notice after we put that in, the reason I'm showing it to you is we'll make it work. So I'll put a random number in here. First, let's put a non-random number. So let's put in nothing. All right? It doesn't fire. It's still in the loop right now. All right? Remember, I put it in an infinite loop. So this should fire no matter what. And if I put in a valid value, they should fire no matter what. All right. So take a look at the example that's in there. If it helps you, great. But you will have to do a try-catch on your last test. I guarantee it. I don't care what Evan had his students do. I'm going to make sure that you do it. You're probably going to have to write one of your own exceptions too. We'll see on that. Okay? So take a look at that. Hopefully it makes some sense to you what's going on. And, this was only 10 minutes. I don't even know if there's going to be a lot of dead air here. Right now I'm still producing the last one, which I let run too long. It's over an hour. So I can't stop and save this one, because if I do, it adds it to that one, then I can't pull them apart. So this one is going to have about 10 or 15 minutes of dead air at the end. It'll be 20 minutes long, even though there's only 10 minutes of lecture. And I can go in there and I can cut out that stuff, but for some reason, with the software I've got, because I've got an older version, it puts it back on again anyway. So there'll be about 10 minutes of dead air on this one. All right, that's all that I had. So the rest of the period is yours, all right, for you to start. So if you want, start looking at number 2. If you're still working on the last homeworks, then work on those, please. But if you're not, look at number 2. We are going to do that one tomorrow. I will expect some input from you. All right, it's a much more fun period when I ask a question and someone answers it. It really is. All right. I was just thinking, I'm going to ask Charles. You ever see those things that sometimes people put those on doors where when they shut, right when they're almost shut, they almost stop and then they shut real softly? Why can't we put one on each one of these doors? And then have somebody come in here and straighten this thing out. You know, yeah, there you go. I know the job I used to work at, that was always the answer. Why aren't we doing this? Because it makes sense. Okay. Let me give you back the test from yesterday. Thank you. As always, take a look. Give it back when you're done. Let me mention first a couple things where people made mistakes. All right. For the hourly, you had to do something in there where you accounted for overtime. And there should have been 2 return statements in there that basically said if they had overtime, do that calculation and return that, else return the non-overtime. The other one, and at least one of you, and I think 2 of you were caught with this, okay? What's the difference between this? What's the difference between those? I want to work for the second company because my commission rate is 125%. Okay? So if you didn't either put 0.125 or take your answer and divide it by 100, you lost points. Does that make sense? All right, at least 1 or 2 of you did that. I tried to write down, if you made a mistake on something, I tried to write down what your mistake was. All right, still don't understand it, and you want to ask me, that's okay. Please take a look at what you got before you leave this afternoon, or this morning, before you leave, please put the test back up here again. All right. So last time, just so everybody hears this, tomorrow, go over 2 problems as a class between 8 and 10. 10 to 11:50 lab time. If we get done with the problems earlier, then the rest of the period will be lab time. Monday, first thing, written test, Chapter 11, 8 to 8:30 or so. After the written test, break, and then we will go and I will lecture on Chapter 12, which is all on GUIs. So I'm going to build about 2 or 3 GUIs in front of your very eyes to show you the stuff, the GUI stuff we have not yet talked about. After we finish with that, just like today, we'll go over the review questions, then we'll do the test review, and if there is any time left, we'll do one of the problems at the end of the chapter. All right? Then Tuesday, we will go over a couple more problems, like from 8 to 10, like we will tomorrow. The rest of the period will be lab. Wednesday, maybe Wednesday I'll go over resumes with you for like a half an hour. And then the rest of the period will be lab. Thursdays, I want us all to try these machines here to make sure all 26 work. All right, and the rest of the period will be lab. And a week from tomorrow, will be the Lewis and Clark people will be coming in here. And remember now, not next week, but the following week, you're off all week. That'll be vacation. Okay? Student break, whatever you want to call it. See, I'm now up to 21 minutes on this tape, where I stopped taping at 10, and the previous one is only 2/3 of the way finished.